It was a blistering summer afternoon outside Buckingham Palace, where the sun blazed mercilessly down on the grounds. Its golden rays reflected off the ornate gates, casting a warm glow over the crowd of tourists who had gathered in eager anticipation, their phones raised high to capture their fleeting moment with British royalty. But among the sea of excited faces and chattering voices, there stood guard Thomas Blackwood, motionless as the very walls of the palace. His red uniform was immaculate, despite the stifling August heat. At 29, Blackwood was no ordinary guardsman. 8 years of service to the crown had earned him not only the privilege of wearing the Queen's Guard uniform but a lifetime of experience in discipline and honor. 2 tours in Afghanistan had solidified his reputation, earning him commendations that now rested quietly in his modest London flat, but today, as Blackwood stood tall in his ceremonial post, he was tasked with a different duty. Every morning, Blackwood woke before dawn, spending hours perfecting his uniform, each button gleaming like a mirror, every strap and buckle aligned with military precision. To some, it might seem like excessive ritual for a mere ceremonial role, but Blackwood knew the truth. The uniform he wore carried centuries of tradition. Each crease and fold was a symbol of the dedication of those who came before him. It wasn't just about standing still, he would later reflect on that fateful day. When we wear this uniform, we become living symbols of something much greater than ourselves, he said. Every tourist's photo, every wave, every taunt, we face it all with the dignity this position demands. On any given day, Blackwood encountered hundreds of tourists. Most were respectful, some amusing, and a few tried their hand at provoking him, a time-honored game that most guards learned to take in stride. But this particular Thursday afternoon would prove unlike any other. Among the usual throng of sightseers, a group of American tourists drew closer, led by a man whose expensive polo shirt and designer sunglasses only barely disguised his sense of entitlement. It was 2:30 p.m., the sun hanging high in the sky, and the crowd was thickening. Little did they know, they were about to witness an event that would challenge everything they thought they knew about discipline, dignity, and strength. Blackwood, who had maintained his composure through the harshest conditions, through war and peace, rain and shine, could never have predicted how the next 17 minutes would test every ounce of his training. The air grew heavier as the group of Americans approached. Blackwood had seen it all in his years of service, but this time, there was something different. The man approaching him, Kevin Reynolds, though Blackwood hadn't yet learned his name, exuded an air of privilege and entitlement that was all too familiar. Reynolds sauntered forward with an all-too-confident grin, unaware of the iron will before him. This wasn't a man used to being ignored. Back in Texas, his family's vast oil fortune ensured that people catered to his every whim. At the exclusive Dallas Country Club, waiters appeared at his slightest gesture, and in board meetings, executives jumped at his command, but Blackwood was no ordinary servant. He wasn't moved by wealth, status, or influence. And this time, Reynolds was about to learn a lesson in humility that he would never forget. Twice his age, the seasoned, grizzled veterans who had seen it all, hung on his every word. Even here, in London, amidst his first-class flights, 5-star hotels, and exclusive restaurant reservations, Reynolds had lived in the comfort of deference, an unquestioned entitlement that his wealth afforded him. But now, as he stood before the unmoving figure of guard Blackwood, Reynolds faced something his money couldn't touch, genuine, unshakable dignity. The morning had begun in a familiar luxury for Reynolds, a champagne breakfast at the Ritz, where the maitre d' practically bowed before him, and a private shopping spree at Harrods, with attendants rushing to offer him exclusive viewing rooms. But as the day dragged on, and the champagne continued to flow, an old restlessness began to bubble beneath the surface, a nagging need to assert himself, to prove his significance in more and more dramatic ways. "Hey, look at this guy," Reynolds called out to his friends, his voice dripping with the unmistakable drawl of old money Texas. "Bet you $50 I can make him crack." His companions, already recording on their phones, snickered, eager for the spectacle. They had spent the morning pub crawling through London's finest establishments, their American Express black cards opening doors that would have remained closed to lesser mortals. Now, with liquid courage coursing through their veins, They were ready for what Reynolds called some real entertainment. The first attempts were as expected. Reynolds posed beside Blackwood for selfies, making exaggerated faces and flashing peace signs. "Come on, buddy, smile for the camera," his friends taunted, emboldened by the crowd of tourists now gathering around them, their phones raised to capture whatever would unfold. A nearby street vendor slowly wheeled his cart away, sensing the brewing trouble, his instinct honed by years of witnessing similar scenes. But Blackwood remained unmoved, his eyes fixed straight ahead, his posture as rigid as the palace walls themselves. In his mind, he recited the oath he'd taken years ago, letting the familiar words wash over him like an unbreakable shield. He had faced worse, much worse. The scars on his left shoulder, remnants of a firefight in Helmand province, were a testament to that. He could still hear the whistle of bullets, feel the weight of his wounded comrade as he dragged him to safety, and taste the grit of sand in his mouth as he called in air support. This was nothing, just another drunk tourist, lost in his own arrogance, testing boundaries. But Reynolds wasn't done. Emboldened by the attention, frustrated by Blackwood's unyielding composure, he stepped closer. The scent of expensive scotch on his breath mixed with designer cologne as he invaded the guard's personal space. "What's with the funny hat, man? Did you lose a bet?" He sneered, reaching up as though to touch the bearskin cap, his hand hovering just inches from the guard's head. Even in his drunken haze, part of him remembered the warnings about physically interfering with the guards. Still, his hand trembled with a mix of audacity and drunken bravado, as though testing the limits of his own courage. A middle-aged woman in the crowd, her British accent sharp with disapproval, spoke up. "Young man, show some respect," she chided, clutching her handbag tighter, her knuckles white with indignation. But her words only seemed to fuel Reynolds's determination. Turning to the crowd, he exaggerated a bow, playing to the growing audience like a performer who had just found his stage. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like and share it. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring videos. Thanks again and see you in the next one.